Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Gabriel Brent, and we are going to be doing the APA Swing Pub. So in the APA Swing Pub, we are going to be covering the following Forex markets as well as the E-mini S&P 500 as we look to not only view what the markets have done previously, but to predict what is going to happen in the future. All right. So with that being said, let's get through our assumptions. Okay. First off, we have a list of what all of our different markets did last week, and if you take a look at our YouTube channel, you can watch that video. So I recommend you do that first before looking at this week's broadcast. Next, you'll also notice that we have a weekly and a daily chart here, as well as our really awesome market analyzer that is being powered by the Elite software. So, just so you know, what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be looking at the summary of the markets here and then comparing to see what has happened this week and then forecasting them out. I also see this as being a really good time to say, like, what we're doing here is we're all doing the APA Zones trend follow system of simply buying and selling pullbacks in the direction of trend. If you're not familiar with that, I recommend you check out the websites. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here with our first markets. Okay, looking over here at the euro dollar, you can see that we've been bouncing back and forth in between this range here for the better part of a year. Okay, and it continues on. All right, so we are looking for the range to continue on as we're right in the middle of that range. So here on the daily, we have that this market is looking to the downside. All right, and if we're looking for it to move to the downside, it sure is taking its time. Let's just put it that way. All right, we've seen some tremendously big candles here due to the Britain's exit of the European Union. Okay, and it looks like we are going to continue to see that move to the downside. So when it's in the middle of the range like that, there's really not a whole lot to be said other than, hey, let's continue to look to the downside here. All right, but I really don't like that particular market as far as lining up for anything right now. Okay, the Euro USD forecast and everything looking to the downside, same thing. You know, it's still rangy. This forecast has not changed at all. Okay, so it looks like it's going to continue on in the same manner for the foreseeable future. All right, moving over to the Aussie CAD market, you can see where we drew the downtrend line here off the weekly charts, and you can see how prices surpassed that high just a little bit, you know, and now we're wicking back down into weekly demand. Okay, so if we're in weekly demand, okay, and we're in the downtrend, then we would think that the weekly demand will probably not hold. All right, so here we are on the daily, and you can see that we're coming into a daily level right there, and you can also see why we got the little bit of the reaction that we did from this area. Okay, so it looks like the daily zone has held over the past week, actually 2 weeks. Okay, now we formed a new weekly demand right here, and we're receiving a retest of that level. Okay, so if the trend is down, then we can sell out of this level, would be the idea behind this. And if we look at the forecast from last week, okay, we were looking for up to the weekly, all right, and that has not held out. Okay, retest expected, but still up. Okay, so we're last week we were looking for price to come up to this weekly level, all right? And as of this week, due to resistance coming into play, I don't know how likely we are going to get up to that level, all right? Yeah, that level's a little bit above us still, and the market can do anything that it wants to do, but right now we've just put in fresh resistance. So I'm going to take that off the table for right now, as it looks like this trend line has kind of been respected here, right? And we just put in this new daily resistance level. So I'm going to say that we're not expecting it to go up to the top of the range anymore, but we're up to the weekly level, but we're going to be looking for it to respect resistance and keep with the trend, okay? Moving right along down to the Aussie-Swiss market here. On the weekly charts, we have price kind of right in the middle of the range still. Okay, we have yet to retest the weekly supply. Again, I'm still thinking that we're on the top side of the range. As we come into the daily charts, you can see that there is a daily resistance zone up here, okay, that we're looking at. And I would say that that level is holding here, okay? But we are in the middle of the range, okay? So this level has held, and we've put in another new daily level, all right? So I'm thinking that according to this one, we're looking at the weekly range, all right, is the way that we're looking at this, all right, from last week's perspective. And I'm going to say we're not going to get all the way up to the weekly range. We are going to, we've seen resistance come in, and I'm expecting for it to hold, okay? That's what I'm looking at for this particular market, all right? So over here, I'm expecting for this aqua zone to hold for possibly retest, and then we would find ourselves back into the middle of the range, all right? Moving over to the Aussie yen, according to the notes here, we have the trend is down, looking for short off daily supply, okay? And we could see a possible range form from this area down here that we are currently in. I would say that we are still looking for that scenario to play out, okay? So we've had a retest of the most recent weekly supply level being formed here. Like, it really retested up there quite nicely. And over here on the daily, I'm looking for that to continue to play out. Now on the daily chart, I think this is interesting because this is kind of where I see the range play going back and forth from. Okay, so we're hitting a little bit of support right here, but the big picture is this is in supply. The trend is to the downside still, okay? So I'm going to be thinking that this level is going to break to the downside. And so as soon as this low breaks down here, things are going to get interesting. And I would expect to see things really fire off quite nicely after that point, okay? And if you look here on our smaller time frame, it actually is giving us a real-time indication that some interesting things are going on here on the smallest time frame, okay? Moving over here to the AU, or the Aussie dollar, we can see that from the weekly, or from our analysis, we were looking for price to go up to the weekly, looking for long pullback. Okay, so we're looking for it to come up to this level and then pull back, and then we can get long again. All right, so we have almost touched the weekly zone, almost there. Right? I mean, that's super duper close. That is very, very interesting. In fact, I may actually drop this zone down just a little bit, just because I feel that it's right there, you know. So I think that's really, really cool to see that that level seems to be doing what it's doing there on the weekly charts. And then on the daily charts, I would be looking for the support zone or the demand zone where I could actually be getting into the long to the upside here, and that's exactly where we find ourselves at here today. Okay, is this little green candle so far. So now it's just a matter of watching the smaller time frames and being able to get on board on the smaller time frames. Okay, so that's something that I'm currently really, really interested in doing here. All right. So again, this thing is up and trending, and we know that it's hit off the weekly supply that we've identified there. So now we're just trying to find the trend follow trade, the simple trade that will allow us to make bank on possibly another retest of the high, and maybe even a higher high inside this weekly level. You can see off of the daily chart, we know that the level up above us has been hit a few times just because of its coloration. All right, so now we've seen the pullback, and the question is this the bottom part of the pullback or not? Okay. On the euro pound, we have up and trending. Okay, we're looking for a check mark trade, and we're looking to the upside. All right, so over here you can see that we've over the past couple weeks we've really been stretching up here to the weekly supply level, and we've come really close to it, but not quite there. All right, according to our daily chart, we have the trend as being up, and this represents an interesting thing because on the daily time frame, you can see that this zone has really, it's holding, but it's spent a lot of time consolidating right around in this level. Okay, so it hasn't really given us the nice money bounce that we like to see off of this thing. It's just kind of slowly meandered up and then come back down, and we're just kind of playing around in this level. Okay, so I would still be looking for this thing to go to the upside. It hasn't told me that it's not going to go up there, but it's definitely taking its own sweet time in doing this. All right, so we just have to be patient and wait for that to work out here. And again, we're still looking for this analysis. The analysis doesn't change. None of my thoughts on this market have changed. It's just taking a lot longer than what I thought it would for this bounce to happen off of this zone. Moving over to the pound Aussie, again, I just want to state that I'm not really looking at any fundamental analysis whatsoever. We're not taking into consideration any world news on this analysis. We're just looking at the technicals and what the charts tell us. Okay. So over here on the pound Aussie, you can see that our overall thoughts are down and looking for a checkmark trade off the daily chart, and then we could be looking for a trade to the downside. All right, so the weekly level is still below us, and over here on the daily chart, this is the interesting chart that we want to be looking for. And this is where that checkmark trade would be happening. So as we're touching price here, we're looking for it to come into the zone and then give us the checkmark trade or the money bounce trade to the downside. Again, we're just trying to keep things super duper simple here with this thing. Nothing complex. Just wait for price to bounce inside of this level and see what happens here. Okay. Don't take this just because we're there. Okay. We don't know that it's truly confirmed this level yet. All right, it's touching it, but we don't know that it has truly confirmed it yet. All right, so you need to wait for confirmation just like what we teach in the APAZones price action school and in the mentorship and stuff. We want to wait for confirmation that this level is truly working out in our direction before we jump on board. We want to let the big boys push the market there, and then we jump on board. You know, don't stand in front of the bus, ride the bus to the profitability. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for there, and I would say that we really don't need to change the forecast for this market because we're still in the process of seeing this thing play out here. It's just now more evident and closer to actually coming to fruition. All right, looking at the pound Aussie, you can see that we have touched the weekly demand level down here, and we're starting to get a rise off of this level. According to our previous forecast, we are down and looking for a checkmark trade off of the daily charts to continue to the downside. All right, so the trend is down over here on the daily, and we are at this level. Okay, we are at resistance. All right, now this market is highly oversold. All right, like this thing has come down here, it's bounced off of the weekly, and actually it's bounced off the daily level. I mean, like that was perfect right there, you know. Now we've come back up here. Now the real question is, are we going to see the trend to the downside continue or not? Okay, that would be the trend follow trade. Okay, because it's down and trending, right? However, if it doesn't do this for some reason, then I would expect this to happen, right? So the trend follow trade is here. The counter trend opportunity lies something like this in my mind, all right? I'm expecting for the trend follow to play out to the downside. Now, it sure is taking its time in doing this, all right? It's not retested the bottom of the weekly zone or retested that daily zone whatsoever. And it's just slowly ranging right now for the past week. It's just been ranging back and forth inside of this daily level. So I'm just waiting for this thing to confirm and to go back down. All right. Big thing on this one is going to be risk to reward. If you're playing the daily bars, I need to see enough risk to reward to substantiate and to basically take my target wherever I'm looking at taking this trade. I would be looking to take a target just like a tick or two outside of this daily level. Okay, so I think risk to reward is going to be really, really important on this one. As far as looking at the forecast for next week, I'm still seeing this play out, so I don't really see any reason to change this forecast whatsoever. Looking at the pound yen, short term, looking for a counter trend to the upside after strong bullish rally off the weekly demand. All right, so we saw this nice big bullish candle last week together, and it had enough momentum to actually power through a weekly level, if you guys remember that. All right, so now we're looking for things to continue to the upside. All right, so as we look over here, and if you remember from last week, we actually adjusted this zone. So as we look at this level, then we're looking for price to bounce off of this aqua level and make even a new high. Okay, so over here we want to be roughly a buyer. And now I'm not saying that price is going to take this long inside of this aqua level whatsoever, but in general I'm looking for this high to happen, which obviously it did, and now we're looking for like the retests off of this zone, and then we could buy as price is leaving this area in the upwards direction. All right, now it's put in a whole lot of chop right here, which makes me think that I would prefer to wait to the bottom extreme of this level before trying to do a long off of this level. All right. It has beaten a weekly level, which means that, in my mind, it means that the bulls are in control. All right. We're going to see if that truly plays out or not. But personally speaking, before I want to get long, I would like to see a retest even lower down here, just maybe to take out some of the people that are trying to take this long after such a big bullish area. I would like to see it dip lower than you might expect it to do, and then go long. All right. So, you know, I wouldn't even mind to see something like this happen. All right. And then I take it as it's coming out, and maybe a new zone forms down here, and then we take up to the long side. I do not like this chop in here. All right. So I want to see us break to the downside before we break to the upside. All right. So that's what I'm looking for here on the daily chart, and we'll just continue to look for that counter trend play. We know that the software is saying to the downside, but we saw such a big bullish move off of this zone that, well, we really don't have a play to the south side right now at all. So we just got to wait patiently on this thing to mature. Over here on Pound New Zealand, you can see that our forecast from last week said support to flip-flop to resistance, and then we're looking for a money bounce off of daily supply zone. All right, so we're looking for kind of a flip-flop trade here, support to flip-flop to resistance. Okay, so you can kind of see what we've drawn out here. All right, and this is what we're looking for. All right, price has actually gone through this level here on the daily time frame, and as it goes through the daily level, we're looking for this level to flip-flop into support so that we can buy it and it goes even higher. All right, we didn't get any reaction off of this level other than this little hammer candle. All right, so we do see that as being kind of interesting. It did, excuse me, that's not a hammer candle, that's a shooting star candle. I'm sorry about that, guys. So the shooting star candle is in the right area, but we got no follow through on this at all. All right, now personally speaking, I actually did take this short just because it was looking like it was going to line up this well, but after getting a T1, I got stopped out on my runners because we had no follow through after this hammer candle was formed. So even when you know where all these levels are, sometimes you just don't get to see the follow through that you think is there, and that's okay, because at least I got a T1 which paid for my trade and then some. Okay, and now it's going up even higher. It's beaten this aqua zone, so now we're going to wait for it to come down here and see if we can't get something to the long side out of here. All right, maybe kind of a flip-flop type of area or something like that. So I'm not going to change anything on this one. All right, and we're just going to see, actually, you know what, I'm going to change it just a little bit, but then after we change it, we're just looking for the flip-flop zone type of idea. All right, so that's what we're going to be looking for and waiting for, just to see if we can get a flip-flop out of this general area here. All right, and you flip-flop to the upside, kind of like what the lines represent over there. All right, looking over here at the New Zealand dollar, you can see that we've been going to the upside on this market here for the past several weeks. It's kind of been a slow and rocky climb, but we're making new highs. Now, something interesting that I'm just going to point out is we have beat the bottom of this weekly zone, which I think that's interesting there. Overall, we're also looking at a target up there of that weekly level, So we will see if that level, if we'll actually get up there or not. All right. Over here on the daily zones, this has been kind of an interesting market for me to watch as well. We can see on the daily zones, we've just beaten the daily and the weekly level down here. All right. So as we've beaten these two levels, I really want to hold off on trying to take this to the long side. All right, because we broke both of those two zones. So now that we've broken two of these levels, I'm thinking that it could do maybe a little bit of a bounce to the upside, and then we actually come down and hit that level again. And I know that the trend is up, but it's broken through daily and weekly supports. And for it to do that, that means that potentially something new is going on here. All right, and I want to be observant and respectful of possibly something new going on. Now, it doesn't mean that the uptrend is over in my mind. It just means that I need to look at this brown level again and see if we see what the brown level has to tell us in the story of the New Zealand dollar. Okay, so for right now I'm looking for maybe a little bit of a punch up to the top of this level, and basically looking for consolidation to happen, and then I would be expecting expansion to happen to the downside. Even though our overall trend is to the upside, I'm thinking that this thing can get just a little bit lower. All right, so from a swing trade perspective, I would say that we really have to wait until everything is in alignment if we want to take the trend follow trade to the upside. We have to wait until this brown zone tells us what's going to go on down there. This brown zone has been hit a bunch. It's been a lot of back and forth in this level. It's a very, very big zone, so the fact that prices wants to come down to it again means that, in my mind, we could actually see this thing break. Okay, the thing that is going for it, that the zone has going for it, is it is with the trend. Okay, so the pullback, we saw a good money bounce pullback onto this level, but the blue zone hasn't held after the money bounce. Okay, and so now we're going to go see how this brown zone holds. So let's just wait patiently on this one, and just measure your risk reward as you look at this thing. But I see the overall trend still being to the upside, but I want to be respectful of this thing has broken major demand on the weekly and on the daily, and now we're weak on the support side or the demand side. So just watch out on this one. Okay, that also means here on this forecast, we are still looking for the long to continue, but expecting a bigger pullback. Okay, so that's our new thoughts on this particular market. Moving over to the dollar CAD market, we are in a big wedge, and we have a slight up bias is the call. Still have that same idea this week. Okay, as we move over to the daily time frame, you can see that we were expecting for everything to stop in the middle of the wedge, and it looks like this is really playing out. Right now the daily time frame says that we are currently ranging. We're up and ranging. Okay, I would say that we're up and wedging. Technically a wedge could be a range, you know, no doubt about it. But looking for price to break out of these highs here, which it seems like it wants to do. You can see the newly formed demand zone here on the daily time frame form, and we've had a good like tweezer bounce off of this level. So now I'm expecting for these highs to be taken out here. All right, and hopefully what will happen is that a new zone, we'll see a flip-flop type of zone form, all right? And we'll see some type of new support zone form happen, and then we should see a bounce on that, and then continuation to the upside. That's what I'm looking at very, very long term, all right? So this downwards play, not so much there, all right? But I am looking for something like this to play out long term, all right? And we're just now at the start of this long term type of idea, all right? So we've actually had this perspective here for probably a couple weeks. It's just taking a little bit of time to play out. And when I say a little bit of time to play out, this may be a couple months ahead of time, all right? So, but that's what I'm expecting to have happen. As soon as price closes above these previous highs over here, then we've really confirmed something to the long side. But until then, I feel like this is still very accurate and very valid. Moving over to the dollar yen, we are looking at a money bounce to the short side. So over here on the weekly time frame, you can see that we have formed a new weekly zone just above the weekly zone below us, and we are looking for the downwards play to continue. And again, we're not really looking at any fundamentals or anything that's going on in the news. We're just trying to read the charts, read price action, and let it tell us what we need to be looking at. All right. Now, the money bounce to the short side. If we look over here at the daily chart, where's the money bounce? I see no zone to the downside. Well, what's going on there? What has happened here is that this pop has been so strong that it's actually gone past the Britex candle, okay? And if we look at our dead zones here, you can see where this money bounce zone could have been happening. All right, it actually popped through it. It did give us a couple red bars in here, but there was no conviction to the downside whatsoever other than those couple red bars. And a couple red bars in price action term is just a couple red bars. If there's no conviction there, then there's no conviction there, all right? And this thing has busted to the upside, all right? So on this one, the trend is still to the downside, but we've taken out a weekly level, or excuse me, we've taken out a daily level, and we may have also taken out a weekly level. No, I guess I don't see that, all right? But we've definitely taken out this daily zone, okay? And I really thought that something was going to happen to the downside on that one, but apparently not. So that leaves us with the real possibility of the counter trend play coming out of this aqua zone down here, all right? And that's what I'm going to be looking for the swing positions, because kind of like with the New Zealand dollar, looking for the counter trend bounce off of this aqua level and to take it in the counter trend direction. As far as a trend follow trade, I mean, look at how much blue sky we have in between this aqua level and that aqua level. I mean, that is some serious pointage right there. So if we draw our ruler tool, you can see that we have $6 worth of blue sky before we're hitting the resistance levels up there on the daily, okay? When I have that much blue sky ahead of me that I can foresee, if the counter trend trade presents itself well, then I really don't mind taking that one, all right? But we have to wait and make sure that that's actually playing out correctly, all right? So that's what I'm going to be looking for on that particular setup there. So after a little bit of more consideration, I've decided that I really like this level of consolidation over here on the left. And even though we've seen price break through what the Apozone software drew as a level, and I'm really used to taking those levels as they come, I feel that this area of consolidation is perhaps the real level to be watching. Okay, so we're going to be looking for price to bounce off of this one, which it appears to be doing right now, and then we're going to be looking for this thing and how this thing interacts with this aqua zone that's just a little bit lower. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at right now. So this is a counter trend play. All right, the trend follow play would definitely be to the downside with trends. Okay, but don't be surprised if we get a little bit of support off of this daily demand, or perhaps a lot of support off this daily demand. But this is the play that I would be looking for it to run with right now. So I'm sure that everybody here is probably familiar with Nintendo. And so I thought it would be really, really cool to do some stuff on the Nintendo stock. And when I say some stuff, what I'm meaning is to do an analysis on the Nintendo stock. So let's go ahead and do some manually drawing out these levels here on TradingView, on the TradingView web-based platform. And we're going to take an analysis of the Nintendo stock and see what could likely happen to it once now that it's been made apparent that Nintendo's done something really unique and maybe starting a new trend in the interactive game industry. Okay, so let's go ahead and draw out some levels for us, and we'll see what those levels look like here. So let's go ahead and start off with the monthly time frames. All right, we're going to be looking at the big monthly so you can see how this stock has performed over the long haul. All right, and so we're going to identify the big supply zone areas on this particular market. Okay, and I really feel like this zone goes to right around in here. Okay, so that's our big weekly, or excuse me, monthly supply level. All right, and now I'm also going to look for a zone on the bottom. Where is low for this market, or for this stock? Where is low at? Right, so I see a nice little wick here and a whole bunch of consolidation just to the left and to the right of it, and I'm going to draw that as the low zone. And through the little template tool here, I'm just going to click on the edges of my zone, and then I'm going to say that this is a demand zone. Okay, so color it green. So we can kind of see where is low and where is high on this particular instrument. Then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to draw in some more levels as price has moved along, and I see a really good level right around in here. And this is a supply zone. So we are hitting supply right now off of the monthly. Next, let's go ahead and do this on a weekly time frame. Okay, so I see some consolidation up here at the top with this zone right there. And then I see some consolidation right in here. And as we come along here, I could draw out some of these zones that have price has already gone through, but I don't think that's super duper important since price has already gone through these levels. So there's a level right there There's another level right here. And price has gone through that one. And so on and so forth. Okay, so those are the levels that are previously dead levels. Okay, so we're not really that concerned about them, so I'm going to go ahead and erase them, but if we're drawing out the levels, then those two would be valid levels that have already gotten destroyed due to price action. Alright, so what do we see here off of the weekly charts? Well, what I can tell you off the weekly chart is we are hitting supply up here. Alright, now the supply that we're hitting up here, based upon the number of times price has already been at this level, we're counting 1, 2, 3 times. Price has already been here 3 times, so this level here on the monthly as well as the weekly, this area is weak. Okay, so I'm expecting price to possibly come to the downside a little bit, but overall I'm looking for price to power through this zone long term. Alright, and again, this might be a weekly call, but that's what we're looking at here. So let's go ahead and inch our way down to the daily time frame and see if we can see any support, because this is still supply. Okay, we should see a shift of supply and demand, and so this level should disappear, but before it disappears, I want to see how low this thing could possibly go. Alright, so based upon these candles here, and I can see these like 2 little red candles that kind of overlap, I'm going to consider that overlap here just because Nintendo blasted off with such force. I'm going to consider these levels, or those 2 red candles, as an area of consolidation. Alright, so if that level is an area of consolidation, I would like to see a retest down low, down here, and then we blast off to the north side. Alright, so that is what I'm going to be waiting for. Retest to the downside, and then we could be a buyer right around $30 and look for it to retest right around 40, okay, or go even higher than this. So that's what I'm looking at for Nintendo and the Pokemon Go type of thing that has the Pokemon Go, I don't even know what to call it, to be honest with you, but that's what I'm looking for on this particular market. So looking at the ES market, looking at the S&P 500 market, we can see on the weekly time frame we have been making new highs, and according to our market analyzer, we can see that this thing says has the number 6 next to the trend, and it's obviously in green there, which means we are extended to the max and we are pushing really, really high. Alright, so as we come into the daily time frame, what I think is going to be important to look at from that perspective is I think the trend is going to continue. The thing for me is to look at the E-mini S&P as far as where to get on board. Alright, so what has happened over the course of the week is we formed a new demand level here. Okay, so we were looking, last week we were looking for price to come back down to this demand level, and obviously it's not going to do it anytime real soon. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for this demand level from 2139 up to 2150 to be a good place for the larger institutions to be buying for a longer term swing type of trade. Okay, now we don't know where inside of this zone price is going to be respected, so we want to let price come down to the lowest point and then we buy it as it's coming out of this zone. Okay, so that's what we want to wait for, and that's what I'm looking to have happen in this market. But as you can see, today has been a big red day. It's engulfed the previous two green candles almost here. So I'm just looking for a good solid retest of this zone and then to buy it back into these highs and to go even higher. All right. Now this is a pretty aggressive long, just so you know, because we are so extended, but that is the opportunities that the market is currently giving to us. So we have to take what the market gives us and not always what we would like to have happen, but what truly is happening. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed our venture into the Pokemon craze, and please don't forget to watch us on YouTube and to like and subscribe to our YouTube station.